Hello everyone. This is the second part of the story, Mutagen, a post-apocalyptic story. Chapter 4, The Neck-to-Neck Encounters. To his right, there was a man wearing a white uniform running towards him like there was no tomorrow with a shotgun swaying by his waist. If he looked normal, it would have been fine, but the problem was this person's clothes almost turned red because of blood and there was a bite-sized chunk of flesh missing on his neck. Another step was all it took and the man lunged at Mark like a hungry beast. Even though Mark broke into cold sweat that moment, his reflexes did not betray him. His blood boiled up as he stepped sideways dodging the zombie's pounce. While it was still in mid-air in front of him, he gave it a heavy swing of his bat coming from above. The swing totally missed the zombie's head, but it directly smashed onto the nape of its neck. Cracking sounds of bones creepily entered his ears when the heavy metal bat made contact. The impact halted the momentum of its pounce and the zombie fell on the floor with its neck bent backwards more than normally it would be able to. Giving out a few twitches, it almost stopped moving. Why almost? Because its head was still moving. Mark's counterattack broke its neck and severed all its ability to move its body, but still, its brain remained intact. And thus, it was still alive. Still, he can't help but notice that it was weaker. Probably because of his attack, but he did not know for sure. The head glared at Mark like it was looking at its prey while growling with its mouth that puked out blood. Mark on the other hand glared back at the zombie, but he was actually trying to get used to the sensation he felt just now. Even if Mark did not hesitate to give it a killing blow, it was still the very first time he tried to kill a person in real life, even if it was a zombie. In the video games he played every day, killing was a normal matter as a large variety of games work by the system of killing enemies, whether it would be humans, monsters, or something else. Also, the feeling of being close to death was suffocating. After all, it truly was a close one. If his instincts did not kick in, just getting pounced on was not the end of it. The sensation of being near death and killing in real life was totally different. Mark was actually shivering and his heart was pounding loudly as he tried to hold his metal bat tighter. After getting a few mouthfuls of air, he started to make himself calm down. He stared at the familiar zombie that was lying on the floor in front of him. It was familiar since he saw this person just a while ago. Failing to reload his gun on time, he got bitten on his neck by a zombie that pounced on him. It was the guard on the first floor earlier who vanished when Mark was not looking. As evidence, the unloaded shotgun that still had its chamber opened lay beside the zombie as it was strapped around his body. This zombie guard had no other injury aside from the bite he got earlier and the broken neck inflicted by Mark. This way, Mark was able to assure himself that how it was like in the movies. A single bite from a zombie can turn a person into one. He had the idea that there might be other factors for transmission like blood and excrement, but Mark had no time or way of knowing for now. As time was very important, Mark decided to continue mulling over these things later. Steeling his heart, he raised his baseball bat once more and mercilessly swung it on the head of the former guard. An iron-like smell scattered in the air as the guard blood splashed on the floor. Mark gave the bat another swing to the side to get rid of the blood splashed on it and kicked the dead zombie to make it lay on its back. Covering his hand with a handkerchief, he carefully removed one end of the strap connected to the shotgun and pulled the gun off the zombie's body. He then detached the buckle of the guard's security belt kit and gave it a pull, taking the belt with belt bags and pockets away. Giving the contents of the larger bag behind the belt a short peek, he smiled. He took out several shotgun shells from the bag and filled the shotgun's chamber, fully reloading it. He then buckled the belt around his waist as everything inside the pockets connected to the belt contained necessary stuff like a small flashlight on the first pocket and the two-way radio at the pocket next to it. The radio looked broken though, as he can't hear any crackling noise from it even if it was turned on. Without further ado, not even giving the dead zombie guard another glance, he ran towards the central area. It was because he started to hear several screams here on this floor. 3 people gathering supplies in the east wing of the mall were now running away as they are being chased by a fast-moving zombie. Further behind them are several more zombies but were slower and staggering while trying to catch up. Mark saw the three and could not help but commend them in his mind. They did not want to fight as they were afraid. Still, as they ran away, they did not have the impulse to throw away and leave the supplies they found. The three men were actually running away pushing 2 carts filled with several large boxes of food in it. Since the sports gear store he just left was located southern wing near the central area of the mall, he was not that far from the three. As the three were pushing carts of precious food, he did not hesitate and ran towards them to help. Another reason was because he was eager to try out the gun he just took from the zombie guard he had just killed. Seeing Mark, who held a gun in his hand, was running towards them, the three men felt elated. They feared to fight the running zombie chasing them, and there are more zombies coming from behind. Still, they did not want to leave the food they found with great effort. It was lucky that their job was to restock food at stalls, so they knew where to find these carts. They found the carts and also emptied the stall that they should be delivering the supply to, but before they can take everything, they saw the zombies unsteadily climbing the escalator with a fast-moving one leading in front. "Continue running." Mark ran past the three and shouted. Of course, the three men would not dare to stop even if he did not shout. He then stopped running and stood not far from the zombie rushing towards his direction. As he saw the zombie, Mark thought how lucky those three was. If it was a normal fast-running zombie, they would not make it without leaving the carts of food. However, the zombie chasing them had only 1 foot. Only its right foot was intact and the other was left with a stump just above the ankle. Trails made of blood that dripped from its bleeding leg could be seen at the path it ran before. There was no doubt that this zombie was in the same standard as the guard Mark killed earlier, but it was greatly hindered by its disability. As the zombie tried its beast rushing at him, Mark held the metal bat on his left and the pulled shotgun from his left side with his right hand. When he got his hand on this gun, he was actually itching to try and shoot it. This shotgun may be short-bodied, but it still did not lack a good punch. A gun was just one in the list of an otaku's most wanted items. He stepped his left foot backwards, turning his body to the side as his right hand aimed the shotgun forward. He could only aim like this as he did not want to make the mistake of putting down his baseball bat, and the shotgun was a model without a stock. As a gamer and an otaku, he had quite a good amount of knowledge about guns. Even if he wanted to hit the zombie's head, he aimed the gun a little lower as he minded the recoil. Bang! Mark felt his right hand go numb after pulling the trigger while blood of the zombie splashed everywhere. The zombie's head flew off the terrace and its body was pushed back by a stem back because of the impact before it slumped to the floor. Despite it was shot with a shotgun, the body did not receive enough impact as it should, as the zombie was not hit in the center of its body. Still, the head did not explode like a watermelon being smashed on the floor either. It was because the zombie was hit by the gunshot. On its neck. Chapter 5, Panic and Confusion. Damn! Why is it the neck again? Mark lamented as the shot missed his intended target. Still, he managed to do what he needed to do anyway. Furthermore, the stray slugs from the shot flew off past through the zombie, riddling the other zombies behind with holes. He did not have any actual experience or training in using guns prior to this event, and the things he knew are knowledge that he picked up in the internet and video games. Since that was the case, he was not that confident with his arm strength to endure the recoil. Mark aimed the gun a bit lower so as the recoil kicked in and raised the barrel due to the force behind the shot, he would still be able to land the shot on the head of the zombie. However, it went differently from what he thought. The recoil was weaker than he thought, and maybe he braced for the recoil too much that the recoil became restricted. It looked like his arm was not that weak after all. The three men, who was quite a distance away, already stopped when they heard the gunshot. They looked at Mark in awe. Though, the scene of him who stood in front of a headless bleeding corpse was quite unsettling. Then, they saw him retreat towards them quickly, so they also continued running away. Mark did not dare linger any longer and shot off towards the three. The zombies already the 3rd floor in the east wing. From his position, he could also see survivors screaming as they climbed up the escalators and stairs in the central area. As the three men were pushing heavy carts of food, Mark easily managed to catch up to them quickly. They arrived nearby the central area and saw what the situation was. People from the lower floors who managed to survive came flocking up to this floor like a deranged swarm of rats. They were screaming and pushing each other while some could not help but fall down from being pushed aside. Some of the survivors who wore light-colored clothes were particularly eye-catching as they escaped clutching their pained bodies riddled with dirty shoe prints. Still, the numbers were considerably lower compared to the number of people Mark saw running away to escape to the lower floors. It was easy to speculate what happened to those who did not make it here. The people that never left the confines of the third floor tried their best to direct the people, but there were only few of the panic survivors paid attention to them. Most of them did not even try to listen as they scattered like flies trying to find refuge on their own. The woman who Mark tried to approach earlier was the most proactive in helping the survivors who were carrying children and was pointing towards the tech zone. It was then that a fat man who had unruly and cunning face appeared. He was perspiring and panting heavily as he ran in panic and even knocked down the woman. "Get out of the way!" The fat man shouted and continued running after leaving a few curses. Behind him, a man with burly stature wearing a suit and sunglasses followed. Seeing how these idiots run around like mice being chased away from their nests, Mark frowned. "Ah! Help me!" The man who was the last to climb the escalator screamed as a zombie managed to catch up to him. He saw caught and dragged from behind down the escalator. His scream did not last long and became muffled as he fell down the escalator while struggling to free himself. Together with the zombie that caught him and the ones following behind, they all fell down like dominoes. This might be a depressing sight, but it could only be said that the person was unfortunate as he met his end before anyone could even react to help him. Though by the looks of it, no one really bothered to help as everyone who was around him before were frantically trying to escape. Still, the man's death brought more time for the people on the floor. As Mark and the three men reached the central area, several more screams sounded coming from the western wing of the third floor. Everyone stopped as they saw about a dozen people running away from that direction, and behind them, there are several fast zombies running after them. The survivors who just reached the floor grimaced seeing that they were surrounded, and the ones who were giving their efforts did not know what to do either. At this moment, Mark looked around him. Shaking his head, he proceeded and took the liberty of commanding the three behind him. "You two, bring those carts inside. And you." He looked at the most fit-looking of the three and pointed at a wall several meters away. "Get that fire extinguisher and follow behind me." Drawing this gun from his side once more, Mark took off towards the direction of the survivors from the west wing while the three followed his orders without hesitation. The two who was left in charge of the carts switched to pulling the carts behind from pushing the carts. They carefully waved through the confused people. Seeing the amount of food on the cart the two was pulling, the people who stayed in this floor was pulled from their stupor. The others who searched for supplies only managed to get a few plastic bags or small boxes of food, but the carts the two had was carrying several large boxes. Mark also waved through the people while the man carrying the fire extinguisher followed closely behind him. As he passed along the woman who fell down, he stopped for a bit. "Get inside already and only take those who are listening. As for the others, leave them if they wanted to continue with their stupidity. But no buts, hurry up. We are losing time here. I don't really care about you guys, but if the zombies arrive before you people manage to enter the tech zone, then don't bother surviving. You guys will sure die when that happens too. It's up to you." Without waiting for another reply, he continued on his way. The man following behind him also heard what Mark said, but he said nothing. Right now, he was only following Mark's orders. The woman who was left behind hesitated for a bit as she looked at the back of the two. In the end, she looked at the survivors who were in despair. She bit her lip and shouted. Though she still held the notion of helping these people, what Mark said to her also had sense. As she shouted, her previous concerned tone as she tried to help these people was now changed into a commanding voice. Those who wanted to live, follow us quick. Or ESLE. Become food of those monsters right now. Then, she left as she pulled her co-employees with her. Her co-employees were also surprised by her change in attitude and only took another look at the people who watched her leave before following behind her in a hurry. The survivors looked dumbfounded for a short moment before what the woman shouted sunk into their minds. Everyone immediately scrambled as they followed after the employees. Among the people, the fat man bulldozed himself through the people in front of him and shamelessly followed the woman who he just pushed away and cursed at earlier. After everyone entered, the employees remained beside the entrance and only closed the shutters halfway as they wait for Mark, the man he brought with him, and the survivors they went to help. It was then. "What are you bastards doing? Close that door already!" The fat man shouted as he panted with spittle flying out of his mouth. "What are you saying? We still have people outside. And who are you to tell us what to do?" One of the employees guarding the entrance shouted back. "I don't care about them. Hurry up and close that damn fucking door before those demons get in." Infuriated, the employees guarding the entrance prepared to teach this fat bastard a lesson, but they could only step back with pale faces before they could even move a step forward. In front of the fat man, the man wearing a suit and sunglasses stood pointing a pistol at the employees. Chapter 6: The Survivors from the West Wing. From the west wing of the third floor, a group of people was filled with despair as they ran away from the ferocious chase of the fast zombies behind them. Among the group, 2 college girls who wore their school uniforms, a set of dirty yellow blouse and dark green slacks. The girl in front had a small face, lively-looking eyes and wavy chestnut-colored shoulder-length hair. The girl behind had a strict-looking face, serious eyes, and her black mid-back length hair was tied into a braided ponytail. Though their eyes could easily make them described as such, those traits were nowhere to be found at this moment. The two grasped each other's hands tightly. Desperation was visible on the face of the girl in front as she pulled the other girl, who seemed to have almost given up. The girl behind seemed to be in a bit of stupor while being pulled away. Large splotches of blood were visible on her clothes. They desperately tried their best not to lag behind. It was because those who lagged behind were the first to be eaten. When they managed to finally climb up to this floor after a lot of hardships, there were about a dozen of them running away. But now, due to the relentless pursuit of the zombies behind, they were picked and eaten, one by one. Right at this moment, there was only 7 people left running away. They could only bit their lips, close their ears and steel their hearts as they hear the cries of help, fear, and pain of those who caught and eaten. The girls' hearts had already grown cold to this. They held each other's hands without letting go and assuring each other of their existence. They felt that once one of them let go, they would totally fall into despair. Just this morning, they were happily chatting with their friends in school, complaining about their schedule for today, which are all math-related subjects except for the first period, and all those subjects was handled by a single grumpy instructor. That was then that they learned that their instructor for the whole day was absent and none of the other instructors present knew why. Their whole class thought that they were fortunate to not undergo such torturous classes for the whole day. With a few of their classmates and friends, they decided to go to the city mall to play and pass time. It was all fun and games even though many shops are closed for unknown reasons. They bought and ate fast food, laughed as they chatted while eating. But who would think that it was the last time that they would laugh and eat together? Things fell into chaos as they heard the gunshots and screams. After they saw what was happening below, they decided to escape out of the mall without even finishing their food. Together with their friends, all of them ran along the waves of people escaping. However, their escape failed horribly when the exit they were supposed to go through was actually the entrance to hell. Fast-running zombies entered in frenzy, passed through that very door, trapping everyone who wanted to go out and escape. Then, a sequence of horrible, sad, infuriating, and disappointing and unfortunate events happened. In the end, out of all the people in their group, only the two of them are left and manage to reach this hopeless point in their lives. They could only run along with these people who were in the same circumstances. It was then that the group was shined with a little bit of hope as they saw a quite larger group of people further away on the direction they were running towards. They heard them shouting and seemed to be directed by some people. Even though the group was far away, they knew, all of those people ran into the same direction like they found salvation. Why did they know that? The answer was because it was the only thing they hoped to find at this moment, that they were being chased by death itself. Now, in the minds of every single person in this small group of survivors, a similar goal sprouted. It was to follow that large group of people into safety. The only question left now was if their pursuers would allow them to. And of course, that would not happen in the slightest. Not only that it would not happen, but for some reason, the pursuit of the zombies behind them became more and more aggressive. Ah! Help! Help me! No! 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 Stop! Ah! Another man who was in the tail of the group was caught. Several zombies pounced on him and tore his skin with their mouths and tore his stomach with their nails, creating a bloody scene of human flesh and guts while the man screamed to his death. Unfortunately, even with the man's death, the pressure that the group was feeling did not lessen. Not all zombies stopped to take a bit at the man and continued their relentless chase of the remaining people. They ran and ran with the fastest that they could, none of them even have the slightest intent to look behind them as they feared to do so. Still, they could hear the hungry growls that crave for their flesh draw closer and closer. They looked forward, towards the people escaping from afar. It was then that they noticed two figures separating from the group going towards their direction. Help! Please! Help us! The man running in front of the group could not help but call out as they saw the two figures. The two figures, the two men, ran towards them carrying something in their hands. As the two came closer, they finally saw what they were carrying. The person running in front held a shotgun with his right hand and a baseball bat with his left, while the other person in the back held a fire extinguisher. They felt elated as the thought of incoming help entered their minds. Aw! However, before they could raise their hopes up, another anguished shout echoed into their ears. The fastest one of the zombies managed to catch up and pounced on the back of the man running behind the group. The remaining people did not try to help, of course, but the two girls could not help but stop when two more voices of panic sounded from behind them. Ah! What are you doing? Let go! Ouch! Mommy! Wah! The two girls looked behind them and saw the man who just shouted in fear as he was pounced on. He did not cry in pain as the zombie over his back bit the flesh on his shoulder, and instead, with a crazed expression in his face and bloodshot eyes, his right hand clutched tightly on the left foot of the woman who was running in front of him. Help me or I won't let go. The man's voice started to go hoarse as all his sanity left his mind. He would die if no one helped him, and if so, then he would not let himself die alone. The woman tried pulling her leg out of the man's hand, but it was like a clamp that tightly clenched her foot without letting go. A step away in front of a woman, a girl about 3 to 4 years old sat as she stared, crying because of both pain and fear. The woman carried her daughter as she ran away, but when she fell down because of the man behind her grabbing her foot, she lost grip on her daughter and the little girl was thrown away to the floor in front of her. Chapter 7: The Shot He Wanted to Make. As the woman continued to struggle and tug her leg off the man's grasp, she saw the man's head slowly slump down the puddle of his own blood on the floor. She thought that it was the chance for her to escape, but to her horror, the man's actually tightened even more. After the man had totally gone quiet, the zombie chomping on his neck stopped and shot a sudden fierce glare towards the trapped woman, accompanied by the snapping sounds of its bones in its neck due to the quick turn of its head. It started adjusting its body, getting ready to pounce on the woman, who now already burst into tears due to her fear. Paula! Take the girl! One of the college girls, the girl with the chestnut-colored hair, shouted as she burst into a sprint at the zombie. The other college girl, who was called Paula, hesitated a little before running after her friend. As it saw the college girl sprinting closer, the zombie changed its target and quickly lunged towards the newcomer when she was about to come into its range. After 2 uncontrolled lunges, the zombie sped past the woman and the child before jumping strongly as it pounced towards the college girl. The girl stopped running for a moment as she saw the zombie jump at her. She brought her right foot behind to gain momentum and then mercilessly swung her right leg upwards with the force she can release. Her shoe made a vicious contact with the neck and chin of the zombie. As it was in the midst of its attack, the kick made it spin backwards in the air and it flew back for about 3 meters and had an unsightly landing on the floor. 2 more zombies running from behind fell down as one got its feet swiped by the flying zombie while the other stepped unstably on the body of the 2 zombies that fell down before it. With that little time she managed to get, she immediately pried the dead man's hand away. Unfortunately, to her surprise, she failed to remove the hand and man's grasp was actually getting tighter and tighter that the woman started to wail in pain. The dead man's body then started twitching violently but still not letting go of the woman's leg. Ange! Quick! They are coming! Paula, who already secured the child in her embrace, shouted at her friend as she saw the 3 zombies that fell down were getting up. Shit! The chestnut-haired girl who was called Ange cursed unbecoming of a lady and gritted her teeth as she heard her friends shout. She then looked at the twitching man. Don't blame me for this. Their situation was getting grim. Ange then removed her last ounce of hesitation. She then raised her right foot and brought it down with heavy force. Snap! The eerie sound of bones breaking entered their ears. Ange violently stomped at the man's arm, breaking his bones. Some of the bones were broken but strangely, the man's grip did not loosen. As she saw this, she made several more stomps, breaking more bones in the arm of the dead man. Stomp after stomp, the grasp of the dead man finally loosened. However, the time Ange needed to release the woman was also enough for the 3 zombies to recover. Furthermore, the other zombies that were left behind were also catching up. Ange's pupils constricted as she saw the 3 zombies that had fallen earlier jump at her side by side almost at the same time. Ange! Paula shouted as she watched the plight of her friend. Bang! A deafening sound echoed into their ears. At the same time, the 3 zombies pouncing towards Ange are blown several meters away, riddled with bloody holes on their bodies. 2 of the zombies tried to get up immediately after, but the injuries the 2 received gave them a lot of difficulty and zombies even started to twist their bodies in pain and growled. As for the last one, it just slumped to the floor and stopped moving. The 4 females covered their ears due to pain because of the sudden gunshot but still looked towards the source of the shot by reflex. What they saw was the back of a man wearing a set of black clothes and hooded jacket who already stood between them and the zombies. The man stared at the incoming zombies and muttered. Finally got a headshot. The girls heard the man's soft whisper. Mark ran towards the group and saw them being picked down by the fast-running zombies one by one. Seeing the dire state of their situation, he urged himself to run faster. Help! Please! Help us! A man who was running in front of the group shouted at him. He then saw a zombie caught up to another man lagging behind the group and lunged at the man. He did not have much reaction to the man being caught, but he could only frown as he saw what the man did. What a bastard! Only at the worst possible times can a man's true nature be revealed. It was something he always believed. Mark heard the little girl who was thrown to the floor cry in pain, and of course, the other people in front of the group also did. However, they only stole a glance behind their backs and continued running towards Mark. Instead, the 2 college girls stopped and went to help the mother and child despite the danger they were facing. The survivors who continued running was about to reach Mark and stop him to ask for help but did not manage to do as he shot them with a cold look and continued running past them. When Mark ran past them, the ones who wanted to stop him gnashed their teeth in anger and left one last glance at him before they continued running. The employee behind Mark saw what happened and also ignored the group of men fleeing as he followed behind him. While running, Mark's uneven eyes grew large in surprise as he saw one of the college girls charge at the zombie that caught the man that was holding the mother's leg and sent it flying. He could not help but grin as he saw the girl's movements and the method she did to free the woman. Unfortunately for the girl, time she had was not enough for the time she needed, and the zombies already jumped towards her by the time she freed the mother from the bastard's grasp. Luckily enough, Mark also arrived by their side at this point without the girls noticing. Bang! Mark fired his shotgun towards the lunging zombies, making them fly back several meters. The three zombies disregarded each other and tried to lunge at the college girl almost at the same time, sticking them together in a single line. As Mark shot the zombie in front, most of the shotgun pellets blew its head off into mush and the remaining pellets riddled the other zombies with holes. He then shot a look behind him and shouted, "What are you women staring at me for? Hurry up and run." This marks the end of part 2 of the story Mutagen, a post-apocalyptic story. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.